So at this point, we've done nearly 20 different hardcore Nuzlocks of Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 175,000 different Pokemon combinations. And a few weeks ago, I attempted this challenge, but it was my first ever experience with Modern Mode, a game mode that jacks up the difficulty quite a bit, but also gives you access to a lot more varied Pokemon. But once Rando showed us what he was packing, it was very obvious that I was completely outmatched. And we lost our first ever challenge on this channel. I mean, if you ignore all my wives while streaming, that is. But we're back, baby. Here to see if we can complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusions using only starter fusions. That means if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead, the level cap is our next leader's ace, no active items can be used in battle, and we're going to be playing on set mode. If this is your first video here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Make sure you like and sub. The more support y'all give, the more stuff I get to make. The way we're going to be doing this challenge is we're going to start our game with all 12 Generation 1 through 4 starters in addition to Pikachu and Eevee. I can fuse each of those partners with one other Pokemon, so effectively we have 14 encounters to beat the hardest game mode Infinite Fusion has to offer. But with that, let's do this. After taking care of Rando and Professor Oak's lab, it's time for us to make our way over to Brock. Our first few encounters give us some really neat Pokemon that I know will be really useful for the early game. Our first fusion is Piplup with Shinx, and this little cat bird thing is such a cutie. And I like that their similar color schemes meshing really well together. Finding Rando over on Route 22, he makes some kind of comment about feeling we've been here before, but this is 100% our first time together, not our third, or 40th. Sending in Shinx Bubble does about 50%, so a second one manages to take it out pretty quickly. His Eevee does some good damage to us with Tackle since it has adaptability, but after the speed drop from Bubble, we managed to take it out in another couple hits. For our final two encounters before Brock, we go ahead and catch ourselves another Eevee as well as a Sandile. Now it's time to get ready. Fusing Sandile with Mudkip, we get the adorable Muddle. Brock is so hard that he's actually become Steel, which I'm not sure if it's harder than Rocks or not, but it's still pretty hard. He's roasting this ordinary regular duck, and we go ahead and send in our Muddle. Bite does big damage, getting it down pretty low, and we follow up, getting the KO. His Ace, Steve Jr. comes in next, and a Bite does very little since I forgot that it's Fairy and not Psychic. Not really having a better option to just start spamming Mud Slap, despite the fact that it does basically no damage. After we burn through about 10 rounds of that, we swap into Piplix and take it out with a few bubbles, earning our first badge. Over by Mount Moon, we find Nurse Joy tending to school Geodude. Hearing the call of a rock in need, Brock rushes over to help. Removing his shirt, he starts to rub his abs up against the Geodude, and its natural oils revitalize the rock, returning it to full health. And Joy and I leave. Awkwardly. After we grab our Magic Carpet and Aron, we go ahead and fuse Aron with Torchic and get a chick. But I already knew that. While fighting through Mount Moon, our bandit goes ahead and evolves into Marshstyle, and this guy's got a silly face. Up next is Lancer, who also evolves, and I'm happy to report that we're still working with a custom sprite for this middle stage. Working our way through Mount Moon, we find Team Rocket. They've stolen all the Moonstones in an attempt to create a triple fusion. Seems kinda cool, but it's probably evil. After taking care of this rock nerd, their experiment fails and all the rockets pack up their stones and leave, which honestly is kinda rude to leave their stuff here. We find Rando over by Nugget Bridge. Upon seeing us, he brags about how many Pokemon he's captured so far and wants a rematch. But he only has 4 Pokemon? Does he think that's a lot? Sending in this fuzzy kitty, we go ahead and set out our rock chicken. He sets up a Leech Seed, but between that and a Spark, he does some pretty decent damage to us, but after a few Embers, we manage to take it down. Solavie is out next, so we go ahead and swap into Bandit. A Psywave fails to hit us, and we get the Oko with a Bite. Ninard is up next, and after 2 bites, it goes down. His final Pokemon is a Phoebus, and with that, we head over towards Bill's house. Picking up a Solosis along the way, we find Bill, who's supposed to be a pretty big deal in the Pokemon science community. When we enter his lab, we find him in the embrace of a particularly burly Rhydon. Upon seeing us, he panics, activating a splicer that was in his coat pocket, fusing the 2 of them together. Amazed and horrified at the scientific discovery, he asks for our help in defusing the situation so we can figure out how it even happened in the first place. Going over to his computer, we accidentally hit the reverse button and not the unfuse button, and now the PC is a blue screen. I'm sorry, Bill. Anywho, back in Cerulean, it's time for us to take on Misty and her Ice-type Pokemon. Sending out Galarian, she goes ahead and uses the Fake Out on Falco to get some chip damage in. The following turn, a double kick gets the KO. Manras is up next, and an Icy Wind lowers our speed, and a Rock Tomb gets it down to its berry. Another Icy Wind gets our own berry activated, and a Rock Tomb gets her pretty deep into the yellow, with one more ending the battle. Cascade badge acquired. On our way to Vermilion City, we go ahead and catch a bunch of new friends, including a Bagon, which we then fuse with the Charmander, evolving it into Bamillion. Up next, we go ahead and fuse Chimchar with our Magikarp for this silly little guy, and then we go ahead and evolve it into Garaferno, who isn't even a fire type. On the SSN, Rando's eating some Magikarp caviar, trying to look fancy. When he sees us, he spits it out all over another passenger's face, demanding that we battle. Cottonoxio comes in and gets Bamillion at the Leech Seed. A Fire Fang doesn't quite get the KO as he heals up, and after another, we swap into Falco. Taking a Razor Leaf, we finish it off with an Ember. Up next is Slugbiss, and a Rock Tomb KOs the fish. Solavi comes in and we swap into Bandit, avoiding the Psychic attack, and then getting an Oko with Bite. Bite manages to flinch Menard, so after 2, we end the battle. Now it's time for us to face off against Surge and his fighting Pokemon. He sends a Nose Key against our Lancer. Setting up rocks, a Bubble Beam gets him deep down into the red. After Surge heals up twice, we manage to take it out in 2 attacks while only getting hit once. Coughloom is up next, and I always forget this thing has Bullet Seed, but we do some good damage with a Spark. Swapping into Falco, we tank the seeds without much of an issue, and then almost get KO'd by a Mach Punch before we finish it off. Houndlade is in last, so we go ahead and swap into Triton for the Intimidate. A Mach Punch from us gets it down to its berry, and Rock Smash activates ours as well. Following up with a Brick Break of our own, we manage to get the KO and our 3rd badge. As we fight our way around to Lavender Town, we find some more friends and evolve a few more times for some interesting sprites. However, I do find that Bakugo's Reverse is a custom sprite giving us the super cool Chargon. In Lavender Town, we see Rando entering Pokemon Tower. Following inside, we see him trying to pick up some random mourners like Will Ferrell and Wedding Crashers. Gross. Embarrassed after we see him striking out, he challenges to a battle, exclaiming, "This will be your grave!" We managed to get an Oko basically on all of his Pokemon, with Litzel only staying up because of its berry, and Nenard only because of its Focus Sash. After the battle ends, we hear some screaming on the other side of the room that isn't from Rando, and we see the Team Rockets dragging this older dude up the stairs, barring the door behind them. Rando lets us know that he's heard the Team Rocket's been skulking around Celadon, so we head in that direction to try to figure out what's going on. After catching a few friends, we decide to fuse Swinub with Turtwig, and look at this guy! And I love the Swinub as a fusion for all 3 stages, and they're all adorable! But once we get it to his final Torswine form, this is a new favorite of mine. With the level cap being in range of the starters to evolve to their final forms, we go ahead and bulk up. We find Rando fighting off a couple of Rocket Grunts over by the sewers, doing really well. Nice on you, bud. They eventually run off, and Rando lets us know that he thinks that he's found Team Rocket's secret base. He lets us know that once he heals up the Pokemon Center, he's going to take them all on, rushing off. Erika, the local gym leader, catches wind of all this, asking for our help, saying there's no time to wait for Rando, so we head in together. After fighting our way through their secret base, we find Giovanni, who recognizes us from Mount Moon, and he plans on teaching us a lesson for meddling in Team Rocket business. He sends out Hauntsting up against Falco. A Blaze Kick does okay damage, but a Pain Split splits the difference. Following up with 2 Iron Heads, we manage to take the big guy down. Kekgon is out next, going for a Shadow Sneak, activating our Berry and avoiding our Brick Break. A Blaze Kick manages to get the burn off, and a Dragon Tail sends us out, sending in Titan. Following up with an EQ, we manage to finish this thing off. Smeargar is out next, and an Ice Shard does about 30%, with a Razor Leaf finishing it off as we go ahead and tank a Hyper Beam. His Disdain transforms into us, and we get each other down to 1 HP with Ice Shard. Swapping into Triton, he heals up, and an Aqua Tail almost KOs. Following up with another, we defeat Giovanni, and he and Team Rocket leave Celadon. And with that, it's time for us to take on Erika and her bug Pokemon. She starts off with Giovanni against our Bakugo. A flamethrower gets the Ogo on both of her first 2 Pokemon, leading into her Ace Volcanix. A fiery dance does a lot more than you'd think it would against a fire dragon, and we almost get KO'd from an ice beam, but we managed to finish it off, earning our rainbow badge. Heading back over to Pokemon Tower to rescue Mr. Fuji, we discover that he's actually the creator of the original Master Ball, and Team Rocket's stolen the plans. If they manage to replicate the Master Ball and Master Triple Fusion, there's no telling what they'll be capable of. While on our way over to Koga, we get a few more evolutions, with Falco reaching its final awesome form, and the same thing with Bandit. With that, it's time for us to take on Koga and his Dark-type team. Even though a lot of the teams for the gym leaders have changed since the last patch, I know that this thing is a lie, going for a double kick, taking it down to about half. Following up with another, his real Roark is now deep into the red. Going for his first heal, we follow up with a Blaze Kick, and then an Iron Head to get the KO, and we barely took any damage. Abtop is up next, lowering our attack, so we swipe into Triton, lowering his. A close combat does about 30%, and a single Mach Punch gets us into the deep red. He follows up with another close combat, activating our Berry, and with his lower defenses, he gets absolutely rocked despite the heal. Hotfire comes in, and a close combat on our end is enough for the KO, leading into his ace. Swapping into Lancer, we can avoid a Sludge Bomb. After hazing away its attack loss, a Flash Cannon, and a couple of Thunderbolts KO Weiryon, and we earn our Soul Badge. While saving everyone in Silph Co, we run into Rando, who's also come here looking to save everyone. He thanks us for taking care of the grunts, but he plans on taking on Giovanni alone, telling him that he isn't ready. He says he'll prove it to us himself, starting a battle. They definitely won't hear this in the next room. Whimsray comes out against Falco, going for a Giga Drain, and an Iron Head doesn't do a whole lot of damage. After another Drain, we're at about half, and a Blaze Kick does some big damage. He Volt switches out, activating our Berry, sending in Lampsil, who has Flash Fire for that big brain play. Swapping into Triton, we take an Ice Beam, but get frozen. Assuming it'll go for a fire move with that Flash Fire at some point, we stay in, tanking a few hits before the Crunch manages to take it down after we thaw. With Whimsray back in, I swap into Lancer so he can go ahead and set up a Tailwind. He Volt switches out again, this time into Magtick, who takes a Flash Cannon from me. Lava Plume gets me down to about half, and we KO with a Thunderbolt. Riparion comes in, hitting us with a Psychic, and a Thunderbolt doesn't even do half. Swapping into Bandit, a Hyper Voice does some decent damage to us, but we manage to KO it. Whimsray comes back in, but we outspeed, KOing it. Nenard comes in and does some great damage to us with an X-Scissor, and our rocks don't do as much as I would have hoped, so we swap into Bakugo, only for him to Baton Pass his speed boost into Fragon. Risking it, we barely tank a Dragon Claw, as ours doesn't even KO due to our attack getting lowered. Switching again into Titan, a Zen Headbutt does barely anything, so we can KO it with an Ice Shard on the following turn. Nenard almost KOs us with an X-Scissor, but an EQ finishes off the battle. Rando then decides that we can both fight Giovanni, so we head in there together to find him waiting for us. Like I said, no way they didn't hear this outside. They double into Whimsray's slot, and we double into Houndsting, getting it down to about half, with Rando going down. Lampsil manages to grab the KO with an Ice Beam, and a Blaze Kick almost KOs Aegius. Afraid of an Earthquake, I swap into Triton, lowering both of their attacks as we go ahead and tank a Rock Slide, and a KO, and almost KO Aegius, only for another one of Rando's Pokemon to go down. Giovanni heals up his Ghost as Kekgon goes for an EQ, doing pretty big damage to us, and we close combat it down to half. Magtech apparently doesn't care about friendly fire, but at least it got the burn off. On the next turn, we take the Ghost down, and Kekgon is now in the deep red. Donzor comes in and I KO Kekgon, and I really wish he'd stop lava pluming us because now I'm burnt. Swapping into Bandit, Donzor KOs Rando's fish, and I'm at about 40%. After one more round, we double up, taking Giovanni out. Apparently, he's been able to make 3 Master Balls, which is exactly what he needs. So he and Team Rocket leave Saffron. Is somebody gonna call the cops? Before taking on Sabrina, we go ahead and fuse up our Typhlosion with the Lapras we got from Silph Co, and this thing is such a cool sprite. Next up, we fuse Sceptile with Aegislash, and this dinosaur construct is wicked cool. Sabrina's a fairy-type trainer in this game mode. Starting things off with Togatails, we send in Steam. Going for a Surf, we take it down into the deep red. After she uses both of her potions, we manage to take it out after I get flinched twice and my berry gets popped. Out next is Marikyu, and fearing a big hit from this thing, I send in Titan. An Ice Shard does pretty good damage, and an EQ does a little bit less than half. After I heal up from my berry, we take it down in 3. Silph War is out next, so we swap into Scimitar and I go for a Swords Dance. After taking 1 Moonblast, an Iron Head manages to take it down. Her Ace Clefix can be a run killer for sure, and after I hit myself and get tossed, I need to switch out. Swapping into Titan, I tank a toss and I heal back up. After getting tossed again, I seed it and she goes for Toxic. At this point, we're just trying to stall each other out. I eventually go for an Earthquake once I'm comfortable with my HP, and the seeds take care of the rest, and we get our March badge. While getting ready for Blaine, our Bakugo goes ahead and evolves into its final form, an awesome Salazard. Blaine is a Psychic-type trainer now, and he starts things off with Mr. Clang, who really looks like a fun ball pit, until of course we fill it up with lava. His Ace Galchomp comes out next, and it goes for an Earthquake that for some reason gets boosted by a Psychic Gem, and I get KO'd. Bandit comes in, going for a super effective Crunch for revenge. Zykin misses his punch, and a Crunch from us gets it down pretty low, but afraid of losing another Pokemon, I swap into Titan as he heals up. And I don't know why I did this, because this thing has Sky Attack. But he goes for Flare Blitz, activating my berry, and we manage to get the KO. Octotor is out last, and he protects me, blocking my seeds. We manage to seed it on the next turn, and I heal up, taking a Psychic. Going for an Earthquake, that Seed Bomb did a hell of a lot more than the other ones did, so I go ahead and send in Scimitar to finish things off with a Night Slash, earning our Volcano badge. Heading over to Mount Ember, we find that Giovanni has used his Master Balls to capture all 3 Kanto legendary birds. Additionally, his Triple Fusion Machine is also up and running, so he uses that to create Zapmakuno, a Pokemon so overpowered that it gets to attack 3 times in one round. But it has one weakness: spread moves. Sending out Lancer, we lower the attack of each of its heads and we go for a Discharge. Getting 2 of them down just below half lands me at just 60 HP and burn. Another Discharge KOs Articuno and Moltres, and I'm left with 2 HP! Swapping into Titan, another couple of Ice Shards take this OP bird down. With Giovanni defeated, the birds defuse and scatter to their respective home locations, and Giovanni goes back to his mom's house to think about his life. Back in Viridian City, Giovanni is returned to the family business as a Viridian City gym leader. He's our last obstacle before we can take on the Pokemon League, and he isn't holding it back anymore. I kind of figured he probably wasn't holding back with his 3-headed legendary bird monster, but I mean, this time he's super serious. Disdain can be such a pain in the butt, so I leave with Scimitar since I know Bakugo can OHKO it. Snorking comes out next, so we swap into Triton, getting hit by an Earth Power. Setting up a Dragon Dance, we tank a Thunderbolt, healing back up with our Berry. A Mach Punch gets it down into the red, but now we're really low, so I swap into Titan. Healing back up, we get hit with an Earth Power as I go for a Leech Seed. Going for an Earthquake, we bring this down pretty low, and I follow with an Ice Shard for the KO. Coffee King is out next. As a Shadow Claw activates our berry, we can go ahead and follow up with a Leech Seed. Play Rough gets us down really low with a crit, and an Earthquake doesn't quite knock it out. Giovanni heals up again, so we swap into Lancer. Giovanni heals up again for reasons, and we tank a Play Rough, going for a discharge, getting the paralysis. Following up with a Flash Cannon, we can go ahead and manage the KO. Tyrancy is out next, and our defense gets lowered, so we go for a Surf. Not remembering this thing is faster than me, we get taken out with an Earthquake for our second loss of the run. Sending in Titan, we set up the Leech Seed as he heals up for about 30 damage. Following up with an Earthquake, we take down this monster. My pawn, honestly, is a lot tougher than it looks, and a Dual Chop brings us down below half as we seed it up. On the next turn, a stab double hit KOs our Titan. That's my two strongest Pokemon, both gone. Sending in Bakugo, we almost get KO, but our Berry kicks in and then Air Slash takes down Giovanni's last Pokemon. Before heading out to fight Rando again on Route 22, we fuse Jolteon with Togekiss and Bulbasaur with Munchlax to help fill out our team. Back over on Route 22, Rando's practicing his champion poses. After seeing us, he declares that we'll be a great warm-up, sending in this for Menace. We start off with Flash, going for a Draining Kiss for the one-hit KO. After getting Magtick down to its Sash, we finish it off after taking a hit from a Hydro Pump. Sending out Windray, we go for an Air Slash, and after we get knocked down to our Berry, we finish it off quickly enough. Lampvile is up next, swapping into Triton as he goes for Minimize. After we miss our first attack, he does it again, and we manage to land 2 crunches for the KO. Riorion is out now, and a Mach Punch does basically nothing. Swapping into Bandit, he heals up for some reason, and we use Crunch, doing about half. A second Crunch gets the defense drop, and now we keep on tanking Shadow Balls like it's nobody's business. And after the third one, we get the KO. His final Pokemon, Nard, is out, and a Rock Slide does good damage, but an X-Lizard knocks us down to our Berry. He protects, raising his speed, and then after a Swagger, we hit ourselves for a lot of damage. Swapping into Bakugo, we finish it off with a Flamethrower after taking just a few hits. And we'll smell you later, jerk. Now that we're at the League Gates, let's take a look at our rematch against the Elite Four. First up is Flash with Draining Kiss, Discharge, Roost, and Air Slash. Triton with Close Combat, Aqua Tail, Crunch, and Dragon Dance. Bakugo with Dragon Claw, Air Slash, Flamethrower, and Will-O-Wisp. Falco with Earthquake, Iron Head, Blaze Kick, and Rock Slide. Jewel, who I've used off screen, with Surf, Ice Beam, Soft Boiled, and Minimize. And Bigums with Leech Seed, Synthesis, Petal Blizzard, and Toxic. First up is Lorelei and her water Pokemon, sending in Empoleon. Flash tanks an Aqua Jet, and we manage to get this thing down into the red, where Lorelei goes ahead and uses both of her potions, and we can take it out after the third. Scartops is up next, hitting us with good damage for an Iron Head Waterfall combination, flinching us, but one discharge takes it down. Garrick is out now, but after we've bruised up a few times while taking some Aqua Tails. Once we're above half, we manage to take down his Disguise, and a Play Rough gets us pretty low. Healing up again a few more times, we manage to KO it once the paralysis sticks. Kingstar's Rock Slides us, flinching us, and after it sets up a Shell Smash, we manage to take it out no problem. Everyone's favorite Staller is out next, and after we get poisoned, I start spamming Air Slash as it keeps on spamming Shadow Ball. Swapping into Bigums, the Petal Blizzard manages to take it down. Milotina is out now, and we manage to tank a Hydro Pump, poisoning it. An Aura Sphere puts us in berry range, and we seed it up for some more dots. At this point, we kind of just trade back and forth for a while until it eventually goes down to the stacking toxic damage, finishing off the battle pretty easily. Now it's time for us to face off against Bruno and his rock Pokemon, starting off with Tyrant Flame, Ice, and Jewel. Lucky for me, my Victory Road encounter was a chancey, so after we set up the minimizes, I can just kind of spam surf while keeping myself topped off. And this kind of reduces this entire battle to nothing. Bruno is a lot harder in Modern mode than he is in Classic, which is kind of funny since Rock is such a weak type compared to fighting, but it goes to show how fusions can really make a big difference. But anywho, after a bunch of surfs, heals, and ice beams, this big guy's toast. Up next is Agatha and her poison Pokemon. With Clinkfish coming in first, I send out Flash for some reason, forgetting that this thing isn't water. After she uses both of her potions, I'm able to take the fish out after a few discharges. Clefairy is up next. Swapping into Falco, we take some spike damage as she follows up with a Leech Seed, but an Earthquake from us KOs. Houndsing avoids our Earthquake with Levitate, and predicting a fire move, I send in Bakugo. Knowing it won't have Flash Fire, 2 Flamethrowers take it out, but a +2 Sludge Bomb does huge damage to us. Croaggon comes in, and I swap into Falco, and after taking a few outrages, the Earthquake gets the KO. With Mu-Oh and I failed to predict the Sacred Fire, and our first Pokemon of the Elite Four goes down. Scared at this point, I just send in Jewel and stack up the minimizes, but she does the exact same thing. Lucky for me, my Ice Beams don't miss, and we take it down in 3. Her final Pokemon comes in and hazes away my boost, but after we stall out a few paralyzed turns, we take it down and we move on to Lance. With the exception of his ace, Lance is all flying Pokemon in this mode, starting off with Toga Flame. I send in Flash and I get the Yoko with Discharge. Snorcore is up next as he protects himself, activating his Toxic Orb. For some reason, the AI always forgets that this thing is Poison Heal and uses all of its full restores, and after another Discharge, we take it down pretty quickly. Septidactyl is such a neat sprite. A couple of Air Slashes take it out without much issue aside from the Sky Attack. Dark Knight comes out in Night Night times 4 Draining Kiss. Volcagia and Age Immense don't fear any better, and with that, we're moving on to the championship battle. With 5 of my 6 Pokemon still up, it's time for us to take on Rando and his team of OP legendaries, gods, and triple fusions. But this time, I won't lose. Probably. He sends in Ninsharp and we send in Bakugo. He sets up Swords Dance and Flamethrower brings him down to his Sash, and after the heal, we take it down. Tax Menace comes in and intimidates us, so we go ahead and swap into Flash to avoid the Dragon Claw. A Kiss gets him down pretty low as he Dragon Dances, and on the following turn, I did not see an Earthquake coming, and ripped to our Jolteon. Jewel comes in taking another EQ pretty well, and we finish it off with Ice Beam. Torture Neon's out now, and a close combat takes out our little turtle. I know Bigums is also normal, but I need to Toxic this thing. But for some reason, it just keeps on using Scald. After burning us, a close combat gets us down to just 15 HP, but my berry saves us, going for a Petal Dance. Swapping into Triton, we manage to get the Intimidate off as he heals back up. Going for a Dragon Dance, he heals again for another free turn, so thank you. He then Flare Blitzes us for basically no damage, and why does he keep on healing? Does he have to use all 5? After stacking up 6 Dragon Dances, he clearly doesn't know what to do against me, and a close combat Oko's his bad boy. At this point, I am faster and stronger than any of his Pokemon, so Luxius also goes down in 1, and Ryorion manages to hang on, taking us down in 1, thanks to our lower defenses. I send in Bakugo, knowing that it's faster, and a Flamethrower takes it out. With Chandelvile as his final Pokemon, I start going for Dragon Claws, and after we trade a few back and forth, he goes down, and that's it. We are the champions. And that is how I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusion using only starter fusions. It felt so good to come back from a loss like that. These fusions are some of the coolest I've used, and and I'm really getting a hold of modern mode at this point. So if you liked the video, please show your support by liking it and consider subscribing. But I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya!